All right. Welcome, kings and queens, to Conversations with Q. I am excited today. We're on our third season. I am really excited at the response that I've been getting all year on regarding the show. I really appreciate all of your support. And it's good that we're talking about mental health, the importance of mental health to our community, to men and women, to teens. And so it's good that we're having this conversation because mental health matters are really, really crucial at this stage in our society. Everything that's going on around us with the COVID, the pandemic, tension in other countries. Now we're hurricane season, but whatever, everything that's always constantly going on, is important that we take care of our mental health. Therefore, I am excited today to have my special guest, Dr. Antoine Thurston. He is an ordained elder, author, mentor, and speaker, very well educated, very well spoken. I love his energy. I had started following him on Instagram, and I just love his spirit, very, very sweet spirit, but he also shares a lot about the importance of mental health, but he also gives you different perspectives of the balance between mental matters and spirituality. And which, of course, I love because anybody that knows me know I love Jesus. So at the end of the day, regardless, I'm a therapist, but I'm still going to never deny, my faith. And so I really, really appreciate that he doesn't just fixate on the spiritual perspective of just getting prayer and just put it all in, but also applying our natural tools that God has equipped us with to take care of our mental and emotional well-being. And so with that said, he's also an author of a book, My Bondage and My Freedom, From the Mental Institution to the Pulpit. And so I'm excited to have this conversation with him and hear from him on his insight on the healing journey, emotional freedom, and just telling us a little bit more about his book. So welcome, Dr. Antoine.
Hello, friend. Hello, Kian. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm great. I'm wonderful. Wonderful.
Good, good. Love the
Mhm.
smile.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you. Likewise.
So, just talking about emotional freedom. Tell us how do you define emotional freedom?
Well, freedom by itself is the ability to do what you want to do and the ability to do what you can do. Freedom also entails that we have the ability to choose. When choice is taken away, we no longer have freedom. And so when we think of freedom, some people think of freedom in just no rules or regulations. That's not freedom. That's having no discipline.
Right.
And when you don't have discipline, it leads to bondage. Period. In any area of our life, without discipline, without self-control, and not watch this here, without boundaries, you're not gonna be able to enjoy freedom. Boundaries make freedom enjoyable, and maintain and protect freedom. But freedom is the ability to choose. And when that ability is taken away, whether involuntarily or voluntarily, then we're no longer free. And so emotional and mental freedom is the ability, sometimes not always to change the past or what has happened, but the ability to move forward, the ability to control my thoughts, the ability to monitor, manage what I think and how I think. We can't change the bills. The bills are gonna come, but we can monitor and manage how we pay the bills.
Right.
We can set money. We set money aside to pay the bills, and some of us um, we can't pay, mentally, and manage our emotions because we're mentally bankrupt. And so what we have to do, we have to definitely prepare ourselves mentally and continue to prepare ourselves and equip ourselves with the tools and the means to manage our thoughts.
Right. I love how you speak about the management and the control factor, helping us understand that we dictate how we choose to respond or react to things, and even what we take control over in our lives, because a lot of times we surrender our freedom, right? And
Yeah.
we blame other people or situations for why we behave the way we do, why we make some of the choices we make, why we reacted a certain way. And so we're always giving away our freedom and trying to tell people, well, I did it because so and so, I did it because of this situation, instead of taking ownership of, our mental and emotional well-being, but then also how we act, how we react to things, and how we just move through life and the decisions and choices that we make. So I love that. I love it. So tell us about your healing journey, because I know that your book talks a lot about just even sharing your own personal journey of what you've learned about mental health, and even how to marry it with spirituality.
When it came to my healing journey, one pivotal point in my healing journey, in my book, I have 5 chapters, and it's not a very long book. It really gets to the point.
Mhm.
And so the 5th chapter is called Mental Freedom. And one thing about mental freedom, you're gonna have mental freedom, you have to be able to accept what is. You
Okay.
can't, you got to stop blaming people, blaming yourself. And sometimes things happen to us that we had no control over. And I've also said this. I'm actually writing a workbook or second book in as a sequel. And I said this about unforgiveness. Unforgiveness is you trying to control what happened.
Mhm.
And sometimes we use unforgiveness or bitterness or resentment, even we hold it against ourselves because we're trying to relive an old situation or circumstance or old trauma. And we wish we can change it, but we can't. So we hold on to bitterness and anger. But when you forgive, you release. And the
Right.
word forgive biblically does literally mean to release or let go or send away. We can't move forward if we're holding on to the past.
Right.
If we're holding on to things that slow us down, which is bitterness, unforgiveness, and hate, and so forth, that's going to slow you down. That's going to hinder you
Mhm.
tremendously. And so part of my freedom was coming to grips with myself and acknowledging part of the problem was not always the devil, wasn't always God, but taking responsibility for the actions that I dictate. Now, there are some things that weren't my fault.
Right.
And we have to be able to categorize what is self-afflicted and what's not self-afflicted.
Right.
But some of us have taken stuff that wasn't self-afflicted and we blame ourselves. And then we've
Mhm.
taken things that were self-afflicted and we blame other people. And so if you miscategorize, you misdiagnose and you can't treat it and you can't differentiate and discern which is which. And so there's confusion. And
Mhm.
some of us are blaming people for what we've done and with the wrong thing. And then we're blaming ourselves for what wasn't our fault. And so you're in this titter tatter, seesaw emotional state because you don't know how to properly categorize. And I had to learn how to categorize what's my fault, what's not my fault.
Mhm.
Um, and accept what was mine. And when I accepted what was my fault, I repented of it. I asked God to forgive me of it. And I submitted to Him. And that's when real healing comes, when we can name and accept it. Dr. Basil von Kolk, he wrote a book called The Body Keeps the Score. And he's
Mhm.
even used a reference to Adam. He said, when you begin to name something, it
Mhm.
gives you a sense of control and power.
Mhm.
And he said when Adam could name the animal, that was an exercise in which he used to control or display his power. Until we can acknowledge a problem, we can't heal.
Right.
That was the basis of what he was saying. We can't have healing, we can't have freedom, we can't have victory until we start to acknowledge it. And if we're living in denial, we're going to always be in bondage. I preached this last week. If you're going to deny it, if you're going to live in denial, you're going to always be in bondage because you can't be free from something you won't acknowledge.
Right. And, I love what you talk about, even the self-forgiveness aspect. Because
Yeah.
a lot of times we battle with that. We can't forgive ourselves for the things we've done. And so I'm glad that you touched on that and how to
Mm-hmm.
get to that space. Because like you say, if we go through the process of forgiving others, we
Mm-hmm.
harbor a lot of guilt and shame within ourselves. And we're
Exactly.
beating ourselves up and not understanding we're still hindering ourselves from our true healing in
So,
that process.
and I said this to someone. I am also a certified counselor, And I've learned a lot on this journey, being a preacher, a pastor, a preacher, evangelist, and all these things. Um, I said to them, and the Lord really revealed it to me, you're mad with God. And until you, and I said this to him, yes, all that stuff happened, but you really are mad with God. And the thing that happened in this area of our life, that was not what triggered it. What triggered it was what happened with your dad and your mom when you was 3 and 4.
Right.
And some of us are still struggling with things that we have not dealt with, that we swept under the rug, that we repressed and suppressed and hid from ourselves.
Yes.
And we think it's the government, mama, or uncle, and them that did something last week that made you act the way you act. No, it's stuff that we have had in the closet for 40 years.
Yes.
And it's an accumulation and a climax now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I told them, until you can truly have a moment with God and tell God you're mad at him for letting it happen. And I said this on the post, I said, some of y'all need to acknowledge you're mad with God and forgive God. That's when you're gonna have healing in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you got to get out of this mindset that God gonna blow you up and send a lightning bolt because you're human. And I said, you need to be able to do that with God, but you're still walking in the fear of what happened 20 something years ago. And some of us, our relationship with other people, ourselves, and God are affected because we have that trauma, grief, and pain that we have not resolved in our lives.
And because that's my favorite statement, get the root, right? It's in my book, but I talk a lot about with my clients, get to the root, because we have to look at what was the buildup from childhood all the way till present day that's really fueling our current behaviors and our unhealthy patterns. Our is to continue to engage in unhealthy relationships, addiction issues, and addiction not limited to just substance use or alcohol, but addiction to sex or pornography or gambling or food. We get addicted to so many things to self-medicate what we address is sitting on the inside of us. And when we finally just dig deeper and get to the root, and like you said, just really activate if we're in this process, whether we're forgiving others, ourselves, and even God, we can experience a level of emotional freedom that we couldn't even imagine. Couldn't even imagine. So for you, what do you see have been the benefits that you reaped in through your emotional freedom?
Well, when it comes to, like I said, emotional freedom, I think one of the benefits is, one, self-awareness and becoming more self-aware. You can be free and still be bound in certain areas of your life because this life is a journey. We're never gonna reach that perfect place. None of us are. Right. I'm never gonna assume or think too, like the Bible says, don't think too highly of yourself. None of us are gonna reach that place of perfection, and we all have work to be done. But I believe also mental freedom also means self-awareness, to where I acknowledge I got work to do, but I'm not where I used to be. And I'm not where I want to be, but I'm progressing, I'm productive, I'm moving forward, and I'm not moving backward, but I'm aware of my thinking and I'm making progress. And as long as you're making progress, whether it's 1 step or 2 steps, that is progress. And don't compare your progress with someone else's progress and process. But one of the benefits is definitely self-awareness, a greater mentality. And when you attain mental freedom, it does something to your energy, your psyche, your mind, your soul. Certain things don't bother you as much as it used to bother you.
Right.
Because you've gotten rid of that distorted view. Yes. You've changed your perception, the way you look at things. And that tremendously helps our mental hygiene and mental health.
I love that. Mental hygiene. That is amazing. Yeah, mental hygiene. That's really good.
I got that from a friend. I stole it from him.
Well, I'm gonna steal it from you too.
Yeah.
we just gonna keep recycling that term. Because it's good. Because I think that it's a way for us to help continue to make mental health more user friendly. And or even the idea of therapy and seeking
Mhm.
counsel from those who will hold you accountable in that journey.
Mhm.
Talked about that in the past, the importance of accountability
Yes,
in
yes,
your
yes.
healing journey. Um,
Mhm.
this is necessary. You need someone that kind of helps you do that checks and balances. And it doesn't even matter what stage of life you're in. Like you said, even in your freedom, you're still always working on self. And
Yes.
for me, I tell people, living in wholeness doesn't mean that I'm so healed I don't ever have to do any work on myself, that there's
Mhm.
to grow. And to me, I've gotten accustomed to an ongoing healing journey and just learning that life is always going to bring pain to you, but
Yes.
you choose to heal and navigate through those situations once you become aware of how to heal and activating healthy boundaries and just making healthier choices overall in
Mhm.
general.
Definitely, definitely. I absolutely agree. Mental accountability.
Mhm.
Um, I've been healed and whole for over 7 or 8 years, but I have a counselor. I have people I go to that if it wasn't for those individuals, I would be stuck in arrested development.
Mhm.
Um, Being 32, my counselor told me this year, Twan, you have a form of arrested development. And I didn't realize it until I told him what was happening in my mind and my thinking in certain areas. And I didn't even realize it. I thought it was
Right.
just normal. Just
Mhm.
something it's just something I do. It's just something I do. I don't
Yeah.
know why I do it, but I do it. And until she made me aware of it, I didn't change it. And
Right.
sometimes we don't know why we're doing what we're doing, but until
Mhm.
somebody tells us this is the problem, we won't ever become aware of it. And if I'm
Right.
not aware that a booger's on my nose, I can't get rid of it.
Right.
So if I'm not aware that crust is in my eyes, I can get rid of it. And so some of
Mhm.
us are walking around with deficiencies and weak areas and things
Mhm.
that are hindering us from just being mentally free
Right.
that, we need that accountability. We need therapy, counseling,
Mhm.
pastoral, Christian counseling. We need
Yes.
someone that's certified, proven, licensed,
Mhm.
effective, efficient enough to help us deal with the trauma. You know, if I got a car and I got a transmission issue, I don't go to my friend that looked at some YouTube videos and think they know what they're talking
Right.
about. No, you got to go to somebody that's certified,
Yes.
trained, knows how to
Yes.
change the transmission and do what they got to do. And the
Mhm.
same thing is with our mind. We can't keep going to shade tree people and expecting
Right.
to get changed. We can't stop going to your friends. Your friends
Yes.
just as messed up as you. You need somebody that can
Yes.
get the job
Yes.
done. They can
Yes.
get the job done. I mean,
Yes.
that's a good venting system. Yeah, you can vent, but they're not bringing efficient, effective healing methods to
Right.
root out. You ain't gonna go to your friend if you got a cavity. Hey, I got a cavity. You want to pull it out for me? No, you're not gonna do
Right.
surgery. I'm gonna go to a dentist. Someone has been
Yes.
trained and certified and licensed and has the proof that they can help me. We need to go to people
Yes.
that can help us. And
Mhm.
I can tell people about the pain in my mouth, but I can't let you operate there. And some of us are
Mhm.
letting people operate on us that haven't been credentialized, that haven't been licensed, and they're doing more harm trying to help us because they haven't been trained to help us. And we have to
Right.
categorize people. I can't let you have my pain. I can't let you operate on my pain. I can tell you about it, but don't stop letting people give you advice. Some of us have malpractice right from our family, malpractice from our
Mhm.
family, friends, even maybe even from the church, because we're trying to operate or let people operate on us that are not credentialized, qualified, competent, or skilled to help us in that area. And we have
Right.
to go to people that are efficient enough to do so, especially with
Yeah.
the mind, just like the
We
body
have
and the
to
car.
stop. Yeah, we have to stop fearing, because one of the main focus on in this show is to break away at the mental health stigmas, getting
Mm-hmm.
a place, even as a culture, as an African American culture, getting us out of that space where we thinking therapy is only for certain type of people. Therapy is good for everybody, and it is
Yes, it is.
from children to the oldest senior, but
Mm-hmm.
it's good for all of us. And like you said, it's good for us to have that outlet that actually is outside of our family and friend circle, because one, they're equipped to help us process things and see things in a manner that our family and friends aren't necessarily equipped to do, even if they are a professional licensed counselor, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Therapist. My family not gonna come to me for counseling now. Now I will recommend that they may need to seek therapy, but I'm not gonna try to be their therapist. Same with my children, because sometimes my children say, "Mommy, don't be my therapist today," because sometimes I have to turn off the switch. But at the same, understanding that, even if you have family members that work in that field or in that capacity, they still may not be the best source for you, because
Exactly.
again, somebody that's kind of neutral, that has the capacity and ability to identify things in you that you need to continue to work on, things that you need to and even things you just need to become aware of, that you just realize that you're doing. And I have that system in place, where somebody's like, you need to work on this. And sometimes I may push back.
Yeah. We all do. We all do.
Most of the time, if it's someone that I know, I understand, I know what they're talking about, I'm going to take the time to reflect and get a greater understanding of what it is they have identified in me to continue to grow and mature and change. And so I love the dialogue of where we're encouraging, you know, to go to therapy, get therapy, So a lot of people know I do a lot of affirmations and even empowerment and encouragement to our Black men to work on their healing journey, to begin on their healing journey, because I do believe that part of my purpose calling is to help support men to transition into the space where they take back their rightful places in our homes, in our communities, in the body of the church, and just in the marketplace, just different things that have been kind of pulled away from you because you guys are getting to the place where you're becoming mentally, emotionally beat down.
Yes,
And
definitely.
it's a place where you just kind of check out, and just let things go on around you just as however they are. But there's a lack of order that's starting to that has been transpiring in our world, and so we have to
Yes.
get that in shape. And so as a man, as a Black man, what would you say just to even encourage our young Black men, our older Black men, middle aged, and even some older, like to move into that space of healing, seeking, becoming more open to therapy, benefits?
I said this I went to Jacksonville probably like a couple of months ago, like in May, and me and my younger cousin were talking about this same issue about men, Black men, and we like to hide stuff. And I called this part, actually, it's actually in the my next book, I can say it like that. I call it emotional common sense. Emotional common sense. And so what emotional common sense is this, very simple. If you broke your leg right now, what would you do? I mean, it's broken, it's snapped, it's out, bone sticking
Get
out.
to the
Huh? What happened?
get to the
Exactly. That's the first response. What would you would cry, you would scream, and then most likely in that type of case, you couldn't walk or you'll be so traumatized, you're gonna call 911, you're gonna reach out for help. And so why is it that we have the common sense that if we are broken, if I'm having a heart attack, or I just fell and I bust my head, I'm gonna call 911. But if my heart's broken and my mind's broken and my emotions are broken and torn apart and distorted, then I harbor it. That's not emotional common sense. That's the ego and that's pride. But the reason why that is there to some degree is because most men don't feel they have a safe environment in which they can expose it as
right.
well. And so we as a people, as a culture, have to have an environment for men to be weak. There's nothing weak about you breaking your leg and crying. Nobody's gonna call you weak. Nobody. If you was having a heart attack or a stroke, nobody's gonna call you weak when you go to the ER. No, that's called common sense. I'm taking care of myself, and we have to change how we view mental health and trauma. No, I'm taking care of my mind. I'm taking care of my thoughts. Because if my mind is not healthy, my life won't be healthy.
Right.
And so if we're too embarrassed to expose the broken places, then it says, then what it says, I don't feel safe. Then why
Right.
don't we feel safe as men to expose it?
Mhm.
We have to have a
I mean,
safe, restorative environment.
why do you think, I have an idea of the answer, but I would love to hear your insight. Why do you think men feel like they don't have a safe space to be vulnerable and open?
I think one reason why, like I said, one is the ego.
Mhm.
Definitely a lot of pride. Look, I'm not, I don't pull back about my feelings. I talk to my
Mhm.
counselor. I talk with certain individuals about how I'm feeling. If you hold that stuff in, one, it says I don't trust. You have a trust, you really have a trust issue. You don't really trust people. Not trusting is also a sign of trauma. So
Right.
you not being able to trust, which is really in your limbic system, that's based on experiences. And so
Mhm.
what you got to do as a man, you got to change your experiences. You need to have some pleasant experiences with the right people. When you start having the right
Right.
experience with the right people, your limbic system and your brain will start taking that information in and say, okay, expressing my emotions ain't that bad. You probably
Right.
had an expression emotion to the wrong people, and they took it and gossiped about you and lied about you and used it as a weapon against you. You got to have a different experience to change that part in your brain. And
Mhm.
so it's about going to those people, like you said again, those therapists, people that keep it confidential, that are professional, and stop. We can't. Some of y'all can't tell it to your girlfriend. You can't tell it to your wife.
Right.
At that moment, some of them are not ready to receive it. You ever had somebody
Right.
look at something? Some people look at blood and faint. They can't handle it. They
Mhm.
see. Some people can't handle our trauma and what we're going through. So some people are not
Exactly.
qualified to even hear what we're going through. And so we have to have people in our life that can look at an open heart. Some people can look at an open heart and do surgery. You can't expose your heart to everybody. And some of us have
Right.
exposed our heart to people that weren't qualified to have our heart and to listen to our heart. And so they fainted. And so they talked about it because they weren't qualified. So we also, as men, we have to start knowing and categorizing, okay, who's qualified to hear my pain? Who's
Right.
qualified to help me heal? Who's
Mhm.
qualified to do surgery on my thoughts?
Right.
Now I could tell you I'm going to therapy, but I don't need your help. Don't give me no advice because you're not
Right.
qualified. Like I said before,
Mhm.
we have to qualify people to help us. All day qualified. Let me ask you some questions. You got a degree? You certified? Or you just trying to give me some advice? I don't mind advice, but I watch this. You don't have to take the advice people give you either. And
Exactly.
so the ego, the pride, the environment, um, we have to create that environment. And but as
Mhm.
men, we also, like I said before, if your leg's broken, you don't need nobody telling you to call 911. The first thing that's gonna happen is my natural desires to go get help. So if
Right.
you are really hurting as a man, you gonna get help. I don't
Mhm.
care what you say. Ego is not gonna matter. Watch this when you want to be healed. But
Right.
when you want sympathy and you want a pity party and you don't want to change, then you use every other excuse. Because as a human being, if my leg breaks, I'm not
Mhm.
making excuses about that ER. I'm going. I don't care who see me. I don't care what they say about me. I don't care because I want to be healed and I want to be helped. You have to care about your healing and wholeness more than other people's opinions. And that's
Right.
the problem. We are, as men, we're allowing what other people think of us instead of what we think of ourselves.
Right. Right.
We have
But
to
what
stop.
if that stemming from males being taught at a young age?
Yeah, don't
If,
cry. Can't cry.
right.
Don't be
Don't cry.
soft.
If you're soft, if you're too expressive with your feelings and your thoughts, you know. And so a lot of them, that seed had been planted when they were young. And
Exactly.
they now engage with people who, like you said, can't, who don't have the capacity to really cover them and know,
Hmm.
carry the pain that they have. So if they end up placing it in the hands of someone who mishandles it, now yes, they have developed these trust issues
Yes.
that makes it further harder to be open and vulnerable and transparent. And,
Yes.
this is where we have to work on normalizing men to express their feelings, their thoughts, their emotions, and even to show emotion, but to still be use discernment in
Hmm.
who to give
Exactly.
yourselves in certain when it comes to certain things.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. 100%. 100%. Keon. 100%.
Okay.
And I will say this:
Mhm.
if you have the right person, even if they're not a therapist, that's understanding, truly understanding and truly cares and is
Mhm.
compassionate and caring, it will help a lot.
Right.
Some people that some of us have never really, as men, we've never been in a loving environment. We've
Mhm.
never truly been in an environment that's actually receptive to our feelings. And so
Mhm.
that is part of the problem as well. Like I said, if a person doesn't feel safe to reveal something, they're not going to reveal it. Even with children won't reveal things unless
Right.
they feel safe. And so as men and anybody, we have to feel safe. And if I don't feel safe around you, then I can expose my weak areas, those vulnerable places and those wounds.
Right. And ladies, I want you to really pay attention to this is not just one man's perspective. This
Mm,
is something I hear from men all over, from different walks of life, different social classes. So it's not a thing of just only certain men say this or only Dr. Antoine,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
it's important that we understand that men have feelings too and
Mm,
hurt just like we do. So some of the things that you were just describing are things that we women commonly seek out in relationships, but we have to understand you guys are looking for the same thing as well.
exactly.
So it's a
Exactly.
two-way street in that process, in that journey of
Mm,
understand you have two human beings. You have
mm,
two who want to be loved, who want to feel emotionally safe, and who want to connect with somebody that they feel like they can be their most authentic self,
exactly.
and transparent, and even say, I need healing. I'm broken. I've had this trauma in my life. And like you said, some parts of it you may have to process with someone else first
Mm,
before you certain things, and that's okay. But even being able to feel safe enough to let somebody know, hey, I need help. I
yeah.
can't talk to you about certain things just yet. But when I get through processing with my therapist, counselor, mentor, whoever,
Mm,
I'm back and we'll talk about it. And us as ladies, we have to give our men that safe space to want to come back to share, to want to
exactly.
open up,
Exactly.
and talk, because they feel just like we do.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
experience trauma just like we do.
Hmm. Yeah. And just to say this about relationships,
Mhm.
and I don't mean to go deep like this, but when God originally made man and woman, he made them naked. And the
Right.
Bible says they saw each other naked and they lived amongst each other naked, but they were not ashamed. If you
Right.
can't be naked with that person without
Exactly.
feeling shamed and humiliated, then you don't need to be with them. Cut it off.
Right.
If I can't be naked with you, then I
Mhm.
don't need. If every
Right.
time I expose my nakedness to you and you beat me up and beat me down and talk about me and talking to other folks, then we got to cut this relationship. That is not the person for you, because the right
Right.
person will see all the pain, the hurt, the bruises, the nakedness, the imperfections, the stretch marks, and all that stuff we feel conscious about, and they will love you for your nakedness.
Yes.
And you'll know you got the right one when they can accept the naked areas,
Right.
the hurt places, the broken places. Anybody can love anybody when they're on the mountaintop and they all this beautiful stuff. But can they watch this, mate? Protect me in my brokenness? Can they cover me in my brokenness and help me grow out of it, or assist me?
Mhm.
And if they can't do that, you need to cut them off and cut them loose, or y'all need to have a real dialogue. Like, if we're gonna stay here, then we need to cut this relationship off because you're not the one. You're not the one for
Yeah.
me. I need somebody that can embrace my nakedness.
Mhm. And and this is where I try to encourage young people, if they're able to do this at an early age, being able to know how to tap into their mental and emotional well-being and self-care, right?
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
a lot of times we as adults, for me in my 40s, it took me a minute to catch the importance of needing to be healed to really be functional in an intimate relationship, and
Hmm.
know how to identify the right relationship for me.
Yeah,
Because a lot
exactly.
of times we're just identifying people that we think suit us or fit us in that season, not understanding long term is not going to work, because if I'm broken and you're broken and we're just all over the place, it's
Hmm.
be nothing but chaos, even in the most um positive or good intentions for the relationship, if you guys are just in a tragic state mentally, it's just gonna be a hot mess.
Yeah.
Regardless. I mean,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
what it
Yeah.
is.
You'll be
You
back.
know, I mean, it's just, and so we have to get to the place where we're willing to take some time
Yeah.
to ourselves and work on ourselves before we continue to keep jumping from relationship to relationship and just bleeding all over each other and just wondering why I keep ending up with broken hearts and breaking
Exactly.
whatever you're doing. But we have to
Yeah.
work on ourselves, and we have to be
Yeah.
okay with that
Yeah.
time
Definitely.
of,
Definitely.
of solitude to just work,
Mm-hmm.
heal, reflect on what went wrong and why.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
Grow from that. Seriously.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think also I'll piggyback on what I just said and what you sparked it. You got to start it.
I know.
Adam was alone, but he was naked alone before he was naked with a woman. And the problem is, some of us don't know how to even be naked with ourselves.
Right.
And we get naked with everybody else. But when we look in the mirror, we hate what we see. We don't like the scars. We don't like the this and that. We don't even like ourselves, but we want other people to like us. And some of us is rooted in also, some of us don't even know how to be naked with God. And until you truly be naked with God and be naked with yourself, you're going to have a hard time accepting other people's nakedness.
Right. That's because we're afraid of the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When you stand and look in the mirror yourself, you see your truth.
Mm-hmm.
I've exercises in the past in groups when I've done group therapy and what I call the mirror exercise. And I ask people, what do you see? And the average person, when they look in the mirror, they don't even identify physical attributes. They identify all the gooey stuff that they don't like about themselves. A lot of times they say, I see pain, I see hurt, disappointment, shame.
Mm-hmm.
Like people identify other things when they really just stop and stand in the mirror. And that's what people are afraid of. I don't want to look in the mirror because I'm afraid, what am I going to really see? And then, of course, the God factor, you really don't want to know because God, he going to tell you when your stuff stink and when it smells like roses. It's, at the end of the day, it's the truth that we have to have the courage to face about and not be fearful of ourselves, not be fearful of getting to the root, not be fearful of the wrong that and so that we can heal, so that we can be free.
Definitely. Amen. Say it, so say it, girl. You're on point. You on point. You're on point. Amen.
Yeah. I mean, this discussion was amazing. I really, really appreciate your time and your talent. I definitely want you guys to follow him, Dr. Antoine Hurston, on Instagram. Get his book. He has a powerful story. Like I say, he definitely shares inspirational posts and videos throughout the week just to encourage you, just to share insight on how you can continue to work on yourself. I'm not one of those people that are like, you only look at my page, only look at my post. If I see, people are really sharing legit knowledge and actually providing you with, tools that you can really apply for yourself. Because my thing is, I want all of us to be free. I want all of us to grow. I want all of us to heal, because the reality is there's always generations behind us. And we have to be part of that force that leads and sets the trails for, our youth to come behind us and do the same, to be able to want to take care of their mental health, to want to be whole, to want to have healthy interactions and reside in healthy boundaries. And so I think that is important. I appreciate your time for being with us. I love the conversation. It was flowing, it was organic, and we touched on things I didn't even think we were going to touch on.
yes, definitely.
But it was all good. And do you have any words that you want to share just to close out, the segment on this evening?
Definitely. Patience.
Yes.
Sometimes we're too hard on ourselves. And like you said before with that mirror, we see all the negative, but we don't even see all the positive. And we have to learn to change our perception and see the good. The Bible says Philippians 4:8, whatsoever is good, pure, excellent, true.
Right.
Don't think on negative things, even if it seems true. But some things we have in our mind we perceive as true, but it's not even true. It's just based on a bad experience we had. And sometimes we can't have peace until we change our perception and our perception of what we're looking at and how we're looking at it. So be patient with yourself in the process as you grow and improve and get better.
Well, thank you again. Guys, continue to check out my YouTube channel under Kiana Howell, or you can probably do a search Conversations with Q to watch other episodes, the last 2 seasons, or continue to catch up or keep up with what's going on now. I do have amazing guests this season, and so I'm excited. I'm loving our kings rising up, speaking out about mental health matters, and tying it to real life experiences so that you will see that mental health addresses and touches everything, every aspect of our lives. So thank you guys for tuning in. Please share, like, comment, and look forward to seeing you guys again. Have a good one. Bye.
Peace out.